Hey everybody, so we're doing another video today on trap modification. So a little bit on the backstory of this particular trap modification. We're doing an ultimate build. By that meaning we're basically putting everything we possibly can onto a trap that will allow it to still work half right. So this is going to be an ultimate Bridger #1 coil spring. So it's kind of just whatever, guys. We're just going to do this, see if it works. We're going to just keep throwing this stuff on here. So this is actually a prize. So we're about to get into it, and I'm going to see if we can do this. So our base trap is our Bridger #1 coil spring. Great little trap, but there's some points about it we're going to have to correct to make an ultimate build. First thing, we're going to have to... Actually, I'm finna go over all the stuff we're going to do. One, it has really nice springs on it. That's one thing for sure. It has a nice little pan, nut bolt pan on it. It has a nice heavy dog for a trap this size. The Duke dogs are actually pretty light. Frame is good, but it's bolted. Not bolted, but it's riveted. Now the chain is crap. I can't tell you enough about that chain. It's complete crap. So we're going to replace that. And that should be it. So we're going to laminate the jaws. Now our lamination for jaws are going to be 1/4 inch square stock. This is actually key stock I'm using, but if you can find steel stock, it'll work just fine. So we use 1/4 inch square stock. We're putting a new chain on, a 36-inch chain with a 35-pound pause-I-trip shock spring. For those really bad killer possums, we're putting in some 30D nail swivels, Sterling style swivels. We make ourselves, and we're also putting a base plate on here so we can get a positive pull. And the base plate is going to be sides. It's not going to be a center swivel, but it's going to be to the side. So now tools, you're going to need some vice grips. You're going to need a grinder, welder. That's the expanded pan we made. I'm going to get on that later. You're going to need electrical knockout box plate, and you're going to need a little section of #9 wire. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the springs off. Now the springs on these are kind of funky. They're more like beefer springs for some reason. So it actually took me a little while to figure out how to get them off. So I actually had to fast forward through this, but it's a little different. It's like taking the regular ones off, but it just took me a little while to figure it out. So I'm actually going to fast forward through here a little bit so you don't see me fumbling. This is actually like maybe 5 minutes for me trying to get these springs off of. So we're going ahead, take them off. We got the springs off, took the spring pan off. So when we're welding on here, it doesn't weaken the springs and it doesn't, warp the jaw. So we're going to go ahead and get our 2 pairs of vice grips adjusted to the jaw so it holds it nice and tight. We're just going to do that. And we're doing this because if you use them with the springs and you get really bad heat on it, it will warp the jaws. So now we're going to take our knockout plate and we're going to put it in between the jaws. And then we're going to clamp our jaws shut. And this is going to allow us to get a nice flush lamination. So once we got everything, our vice grips all geared up and whatnot, we're going to go ahead and clip them all. We're going to want one on each side so we get a correct, even proportion of the force. So I put one on one side, one on the other side, so there won't be a slight gap or something when we have an overbite in the laminations. That'll just be a pain. So this is the easy way. Now we're going to take our 4th stock, our 1/4 inch stock. We're going to use for our laminations, and we're going to just. Usually I use 2 pairs of vice grips, but I couldn't find my other pair, so we're just going to use 1 pair today. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So what we do is we bump that lamination right up on that piece of want to bump it up to that knockout plate, and that's going to keep it flush. And we're just going to do 3 tack welds, 2 on the side, 1 on each side, and 1 in the middle. You can do more, but we're just doing that much now. And I'm just using a standard flux core welder, nothing serious. Just gotta make sure your metal's clean, and you usually get a pretty good weld with it. You get lots of slag. So we got 1 on each side, and then we're just gonna, once that's done, we just remove our metal clamp, knock off some of that slag. We're gonna go ahead and put that metal bead in, that middle bead, I mean. You want to be careful when you do this. You really don't want to heat the jaw up. You want to start on the lamination piece itself, burn that in a little bit, and then make a direct line straight into the trap jaw. This will avoid warping. This will let it get good penetration. But you're still going to practice. So you did it on one side, we're just going to flip it over and do it on the other side. Easy peasy. So we're just flipping over, fast forwarding it. Do it on the same side. Now you see these little gaps that are in here. You're probably like, oh, those are gaps. Well, we're going to take care of those. So now you will probably want to wear gloves while doing this, but I'm not very bright, as y'all can probably tell from my past videos. But you know, ain't no big deal. So now we got the laminations on. Now we got the laminations on. What we're going to do is go onto the sides. We're going to weld that little side piece, as I'm trying to illustrate. We're going to weld that little gap. That's going to give us some material to take off and make it nice and flush. So all we're doing is just welding the corners now. So we're putting material in the corners so when we grind, it'll be nice and flush. We don't have like a gap or anything where rust can get in or dirt or something like that. So we don't have to burn it in either. We just want to put that material in there so we have something to work with. And it's pretty simple. So as it's showing there in that on the top one, we just put a bead directly on that. We're just trying to fill in that little gap, that space right there. And I'm just using my hand to try and shield the camera from the, you know, the light from the welder, because I'm pretty sure it can mess up the camera after a while. So I'm trying to avoid that as much as I can. And once I weld it, I really like to go back and just try and knock the slag off with like a little hammer. I was just using a file right there. While it's still hot, it's a lot easier to knock off. So there we go. We went ahead and we filled in those gaps real quick. You want to try and make it really shallow. You don't want to get a really big build up, because when you grind it, it's going to be a pain. So knock it off the slag again, and we're finna go over all this again with a flap wheel. And I'm just finna go dunk. I just went and dunked it in some water real quick, cool it down. And that's what I was talking about. We welded those right there. put some material down there so we can grind it down. And as you see, that jaw that should be flat against each other. It shouldn't be offset like that. So we got to do some grinding. As you see, it's also not very smooth. You definitely don't want that on the animal's foot. So what we're finna do is we're finna take an angle grinder. You can probably use a belt sander with a really soft bit. So not bit, but belt. So all we're doing is just taking the angle grinder with a flat disc. You can do different grits if you want. Like once I find this grit, and we're just grinding those down nice and flat. Now we're doing the parts we welded first. Get them down, and then we can go back over. Really, we're just shining everything up, making it smooth, and making it look like one piece. Pretty simple. Rounding these edges off. You don't have to, but I just think it looks nice. Looks more professional. And again, if you've never done this, wear gloves. I'm used to doing this, but that's one reason I'm not wearing gloves. I'm used to doing this a lot, but you can actually put your hand pretty bad with an angle grinder, so I highly recommend wearing a pair of gloves if you've never done this before. And as you see, I'm holding the flat disc straight onto the jaw surface. I'm not sharpening the jaw. Okay, don't get it twisted. I'm flattening that jaw out and making it flush. I'm trying to make it as smooth as I possibly can. So I'm just going to take my hand file, and I'm just trying to go around all the insides, keeping it nice and flat. I'm trying to go around the inside, make sure I get like any pieces of slag I didn't get with my angle grinder. And a Dremel tool would probably be very useful in this. I bought an off-brand one, but it didn't really do the job as much as I wanted. So all I'm doing right here, I'm just going through here, and I'm just knocking off all the little metal shavings and stuff that come about when grinding. So as you see, I can run my finger across, no blood, no nothing like that. As you see, it shuts nice and perfect. So that shows you it's nice and smooth, and all those little nubs being grinded off. So now we got that part done. We're going to do the offset. Now, how we're going to do the offset is take a piece of number 9 wire, and we're going to cut off chunks. We're going to weld it into the sides. So we're just going to cut the little chunks. They only need to be about ½ an inch, if that. Just using a little pair of wire snippers. Not very big at all. As we're going to cut that one just a little more, so it's a little more compact when it gets in there. So we're going to weld each one of these they're going to act like lugs. We're going to weld one right on that part of the jaw. One's going to be welded right here, flat. And how we're going to do that is we're going to basically just go ahead and seat it in the jaws. And we're going to clamp that into place with a vice grip, and then we're going to do the same on the other side. So as you see, it makes a pretty good offset. So we're welding one on each. Just go ahead and take your vice grips and reclamp. With my dogs in the background. So as you see, we got one clamped in each place, and we're just going to tack weld Actually, you want to kind of burn it into place, but if you're not very good with welding yet, just tack it for the time being, but do a really good job at it. So. Now, while I'm welding, I will explain that you don't weld them both on the same jaw. One is going to be on the left jaw, and the other is going to be on the right jaw. Okay? They're both not going to be on the same side either. So it's hard for me to explain in words, but when I show you what I'm doing, it'll make a lot of sense. So basically, you're just welding one to one jaw, and welding the other one to another. If that makes sense to y'all. As you see, one is on that jaw and the other one's on that jaw. And we welded them right where the jaw starts making that curve to its top part. And here's a little blooper here. I didn't even have the electrode hook up. So make sure you have your stuff hooked up properly. And also, I didn't have my welder set right, so I didn't want to do anything. So there we go. But once you weld them on the sides, you're going to go back and weld the tips of them down. So when we grind, we can try and make it look more like one piece. So you're going to have the tips going down the jaws, and we're going to try and just weld some material into there. So when we grind it, it's going to try and look more like one piece. And it's just not going to be jutting out. It's just going to have like a very graceful, it's hard to explain, but you're all going to see how it looks when we're done with this, so don't worry about that too much right now. We're trying to get everything welded, and once everything's welded, then we can get to the actual shaping and beautification of it. So, but that's basically what I was talking about. So I just went ahead and dunked it in some water real quick so I could work with it better. And as you see with those lugs at it, we have an offset, but that's a bit big. I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go over it. You see, it's just enough that So what we're gonna do now is we're just gonna do some more grinding, knock the slag off, same thing we were doing before. Pretty everything up. Get everything in line and everything all adjusted and whatnot. Just none much. So now basically what we're doing here is if you have your lugs in your offset too much, all you have to do is just go back and you have to grind the top of the lugs down a little bit. So if you have like a number 9 wire, just go and grind the top of that lug down a little bit where it contacts the other jaw. Just grind that one down a little bit and go grind the other one down a little bit, and just keep doing that until you reach your desired offset. So that's a pretty good way to do it. So that's a little pro tip for y'all. And I'm just getting my file, going back through there. And we're just going to go on the top of the jaws real quick too. So now that our offsets are on, you're going to go ahead and see how they pair up. So we got to put the spring pin back in. to make sure it properly aligns with the lever. So that's another 5 or 6 minutes of me, being an idiot, not realizing how to put the darn thing back on. Actually, a little spark had got in there and it made a little lug in there, so I had to knock that out. So, but as you see, the thing about these lugs is it won't let the jaws ride the levers ride up all the way. So what we're going to do, we're going to take material off the levers so that it will allow the levers to come up all the way and lock up properly. So I'm just marking with a nail where I'm gonna want to take them off at. So all I'm doing is just taking my grinder. I'm just taking material off of the side of the jaw so it'll let the levers ride up a lot more. It's a pretty basic thing to do. It's not really rocket science by any means. Pretty simple. But I only want to do half of each jaw, so I need a total of, say, I don't know, about 4 micrometers off of the, total space. So the jaw slide up here, I'll take off 2 micrometers on one jaw and 2 micrometers on another jaw, if that makes sense. But as you see, I'm just grinding it and making it easy for that offset point. So if that makes more sense to y'all, with that's a visual. I just have to do it on the other end. So once we got our everything cut out, all of our stuff nice and grinded down, we got our jaws done. We got the jaws, which is the main part of it. Our offsets and our laminations. That's the main thing about it. Get that done, nice and shaped up. Now it's time to work on the underside. Now the thing about this, it had only one swivel point, and that was on the side. I don't like that, so we're finna add a base plate, which I made out of a 30D nail. And this is going to really reinforce the bottom of it, which you don't really need for a trap of this size, but we're just doing it because we're doing an ultimate trap. So this is made with a 30D nail, but I usually make them with 20Ds. But I had some 30Ds, so I went ahead and used it. Now, what we're going to do with this is we're actually going to offset this base plate. Usually that little bow part in the middle is smack dab, in the middle of the trap, but we're going to put it off to the side. What this is going to do is, when the animal fights the trap, it's going to jerk his foot to one side of the trap, and it's going to stay there. Now I'm still experimenting with this, but from the way it seems, once it gets on that one side of the trap, with the momentum going that way, he's not going to be able to slide the foot between the jaws, creating friction and possible foot damage. So, also, it's just going to put a little bind on him. It's going to be hard for him to pull out. So, I'm thinking in hindsight, is not going to be super comfortable, but it's going to be, for the animal's welfare, it's going to be much better for him. So, all we're doing is just clamping it down, and we're just going to go ahead and tack it, and then we're going to kind of burn it in a little bit. You want these tacks to be really nice, because this is where the connector this is where the trap is connected to the chain. If this breaks, well, you're out of a trap, and you're out of a trap. Yeah, some poor animal running around with a trap on its foot, and it doesn't have a chain on it, so it's not going to get hooked or anything. It's not going to be able to pull out, so everybody knows how that goes. So it's not good for us or the animals. So make sure you really weld these on very good. So just fast forward it. As you see, I'm really drilling this in. So knocking the slack. You really don't need to make the bottom look very pretty at all. but I don't like having a lot of slag on there. So as you see, it's offset to the side. Next thing we're going to do is add our nail swivel. It's made with a 30D nail and a 3/16 nut, I think. Use this with using that Bob Custer's Trapper's Bender, which I'm going to do a review on. Give me some time, guys. If y'all want it, I will do it. But I really think these actually work they bed much nicer than the universal swivels or even the crunch proof swivels. So the thing is, you have to weld these, so you have to actually weld these on. So if I want to take this off, I would have to cut it off. So, but we're just going to tack the sides in, and once you tack these in real good, these things are almost indestructible, especially with a 30D nail. So I usually use 20Ds, but I want to use 30s. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add the new chain. Our new chain setup is a 36-inch chain. This is some dog chain I had. I forgot. I got it from Fred's. And it was rated. I actually used this on my DP traps. On our drags, and it was rated for up to a 60-pound dog, I think. So it's more than enough for raccoons, but I probably wouldn't use it for anything bigger than a fox. So I got 36 inches of that. I'm just crimping on that J-hook I made. That J-hook is with a 30D nail too. It ain't coming off, especially with no raccoon. So we got one swivel point. We're going to put another swivel point between the first swivel and the shock spring. And that's one that pulls out trip shock springs. Or maybe it's a Sleepy Creek shock spring. I can't remember, but it was the one that came with two J-hooks. So this whole trap has 4 swivel points in it. I mean, well, actually more like 6. 2 on the spring, 1 at the trap, 1 between the spring and the trap, and 1 at the end of the chain. So we got everything done. All we gotta do is just do some little touch-up work. All I'm gonna do now is try to add a night latch. We're doing a dog night latch. So all I'm gonna do is just I clip my vice grips on. I'm going to use my vice grips as a guide to actually cut the notch in with my file. And let me tell you guys, this took a while. I had to actually go inside, get my Dremel tool, redo it. But you can do it for file. It's just been forever since I did it. So now, actually, there's a picture coming up. If you guys have never seen a on a dog night latch, I got a picture. It should be coming up any second now. But there it is. This is on a pause out trip dog. But as you see, all we're doing is just cutting a little notch. So when we pull the trigger down to our point, you're going to hear a little click. This is on the dog. And as you see, it's kind of hard to see there, but just the same principle of that picture you just saw. So it's going to fit in there. And it's going to fall. It's going to be a, super ninja. So I got the springs and everything back on, and let me tell you, these are some stout little traps. You probably wouldn't use these without the lamination, but with the laminations, it really powers them out, the traps on. So now we're going to add the oversized pan. And guys, let me go ahead and tell you this. If you do not want the oversized pan, do not put it on. I cannot over-enunciate this. I don't know how many guys will bash you for using an oversized pan. If you don't want it, don't put it on. I just made it for the heck of it. And, yeah. So, don't get in the comments and be like, oh, he's using an oversized pan, you're going to get toe catches, all that. Just don't do it, okay? Just don't. If you don't want it, don't put it on. Save yourself some time. And if you're wondering how I made it, I just took a knockout plate. I just traced it out. I just cut it out with a hacksaw and a grinder. So all it is it slips on. I got a little place cut for the rivet that's in the pan. And I just tack weld it on. And this thing takes up almost all the space from the pan to the jaw. It takes up almost all that space with about a 1/4 inch difference. That's it. I actually recently, before I shipped this to the person who wanted it, I actually cut that pan down a little bit because people were just making such a big deal about it. So I want to cut it down a little bit, so now it's maybe about a 1/4 inch from the jaw to the pan. I mean, this is like a possum trap, guys. I mean, it's offset, laminated. It's a land trap. I'm going to use it for possums, feral cats. This would be a great feral cat trap, but I don't know. People just get so worked up about stupid stuff. So if you don't want it, don't put it on. Whatever. Just don't. So there we go. So we got our shock springs, laminations, offsets, base plates, J hooks, longer chain, the whole 9 yards on this trap.
Well, here we go, guys. This is one hardcore little trap. Hope you guys liked it. Like, comment, subscribe, and later.